Welcome to Honest Car Reviews. My name is Eric and this is the Ford Mustang Mach-E. The name has made more than just a stir. It has made people flat out mad and angry. Why is a Mustang an electric crossover? This is a pressed car, so I will only have this car for a couple of days, which means that you will experience this car together with me. So my thoughts and emotions will be quite unfiltered. This is an electric crossover. A Mustang has a V8 rear wheel drive, low and a coupe body. Well, this Mach-E might have a coupe-ish body, but it's by no means a Mustang in the classic design sense, even though it has some lines that takes you to the classic Mustang. Because of electric engines, you don't need to have such a large bonnet. It's more for styling, more for space, and more for crash safety area, and of course, because of tradition. Because you had an engine there before, now it's different. Now it's only rear-wheel drive with electric engines in the back or in the front or in the both rear and front. That's just in general electric terms, because this Mustang Mach-E has two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, so rear-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. And the Mustang Classic 3 stripes is also in the rear, so Ford has been quite clever when calling this a Mustang, because they've taken all the key design elements of the long, huge, bulbous hood, the classic front lights, which have been thinned down, and the 3 classic rear stripe lights. And in some ways, the arched rear. This red paint, the blacked out parts, looks great. I personally could see myself buying this car. It looks aggressive enough and different compared to other crossovers and electric crossovers that are coming to the market. The thing with crossovers before was that they had quite a coherent body shape in general, but with electric platforms you can change and shape cars in completely different ways to resemble something, or you have more freedom design-wise. And I think that Ford has utilized this possibility to the furthest. And I'll go back to the Mustang name, because what I believe Ford is trying to do is to cater towards a different market. The Ford Mustang V8 is a classic car. It is a historic car, but it caters towards people that want performance and want something different. People have heard about the Mustang, and by hearing the Mustang and then seeing that this is an approachable crossover, usable crossover SUV, they think it is a bit cooler than the generic electric crossover. And you have just catered towards a completely different market and a broader market. And I can see why Ford chose the Mustang, but even I feel that when they talked about the Mustang Mach-E or electric Mustang, I thought that they would have a classic Mustang with an electric engine swapped into it or something like that. But this is what we have, and in some ways you have to respect Ford for sticking to their guns. Here is the 2 types of charging cables that come: the classic wall-mounted box or home charging cable and the classic CCS charging cable. Electrically operated tailgate with the coupe-ish body lines. I'm quite tall, almost 190. It's standard practice to test the rear seating position. My knees are quite high up, which means that I have only one contact point, which is just underneath my buttocks. Quite okay foot space, and my knees aren't actually hitting that much. And because of the panoramic sunroof, there is some extra amount of space, about 5 centimeters. And I have some space to the right here also. So I would say that in general, space-wise, this is a pass. But in regards to long distances and how my legs will feel, I feel that because my knees are so high up and there's one large contact area just underneath my buttocks, and I don't have enough support underneath my thighs here, my knees will become tired quite quickly, as my lower back. And it's red stitching with black leather, and I think it looks cool. This is much softer than some of the German counterparts. The material and how it's foamed, the foam used, and how it's added onto the bench. It feels softer than the German equivalent. I don't know if it's bad or good, it's just a matter of taste. And for me, this middle part here feels a bit too soft. It feels too squishy for my taste. But this huge panoramic sunroof, I mean, it is one entire piece. And I mean, it looks amazing, but if there's a crack, I feel that there will need some major reconstruction with the, not just the glass, but the entire construction. This is also quite interesting. The side doors are quite uniquely designed compared to other cars, and that is that they have a protruding entire part. Often this is just a small part, and this speaker often located down. And there's also some extra storage backwards, especially here. You can see this cover part. There's a lot of extra storage behind that, but accessing it is not easy. So you have to go with your hand, and it's quite uncomfortable. And we go into the driver's seat. And this is a pre-production model, which means that there have been some instances where it doesn't feel 100%, and that is, you can see here, the body lines don't add up here. So you can open this car in, let's see, 3 ways. Either by a number combination here, or with the use of your phone. This comes, I got this from Ford themselves, so it's pre-programmed. So I don't know how easy this is to connect and to get started, but let's see if it's as easy as I thought to open the car via the app. Home, let's start, unlock. So on the home screen you have unlock, or open maybe. Yeah, so now you can see it open. You can close it like this as well. Neat. Open up the rear tailgate. And let's see if I can close it as well. Possible. And opening up the rear doors, it is just a button. So it opens up, and then there's a plastic cover here. The push handle. It stands always like this. This is how it is. So you press it, and it's open up. Bang & Olufsen sound system, which sounds quite good, and they have implemented something also quite interesting. A horizontal soundbar. So if you touch here, you can feel grooves. So there are speakers here, no speakers here. Speakers here. Here you have the ventilations horizontally, quite a lot of horizontal design elements here. And also quite a lot of flowy elements as well. Everything is quite rounded, quite pleasant to sit in. The seats are a bit bigger and more relaxed than some of the Ford Mustang Mach-E's competitors. And also, in order to open, you have a latch that you just pull towards you, and it opens up. Also, possibility to set different seating positions. This is the big talk of the Mach-E, the huge middle screen. And you can see you have actually 3 screens. This is for daily use for driving. This is the third screen, which is used for autonomous driving. Because of laws, you can't use it in Sweden and some other countries, but it is there, and maybe in the future we'll able to use this one. One of the complaints I have is the buttons here and the general layout. They used a new steering wheel, a new design, but they have the old steering wheel buttons and design. It just looks clumsy. They work well, and the tactile feedback is also nice, but for the price of this car, this doesn't look, with this plastic protruding part, it just looks bulky, which is quite different compared to the rest of the car. Because of no gearbox tunnel, you have a lot of storage area. There's two levels, one underneath here, but it's quite difficult to reach into, and one here. Wireless charging, old USB type and the USB-C type. Nice. This is the gear shift selector. I'm in park now, twist it, it doesn't feel nice, and you can see how much it flexes. But as I'm standing still, I'll talk about the infotainment system. Nice to have a manual control for the volume. I will turn that down. It uses AI technology. So here it learns what I use the most. This is new for Ford. I can see that they're really trying. This is the next level. This is miles away from sync. Just miles. And I like that they're doing their part of trying to work ahead and an evolution in infotainment systems. One neat thing that I haven't been able to work out where this is located apart from under the key cards is this submenu. So when you drive, you can see where your energy has been taken from. So most often you can see that the climate, keeping you cool or keeping you warm, uses quite a lot of energy. This model is four-wheel drive with the biggest battery and the strongest engine, so 351 horsepower. And it does, let me check, it does 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 5.6 seconds. It has 540 kilometers of range and cost from, this is Swedish kroner, so it just divided by 10 to go into euros, around 73,000 euros. It's a quite simplified lineup. You have rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive options. The rear-wheel drive have either 269 horsepower engine or a 294 horsepower engine. The 269 horsepower engine has around 440 kilometers of range. The 294 horsepower engine has around 610 kilometers of range. So the rear-wheel drive models have either standard range or long range, those two. So you can't combine different engine options so much. Car manufacturers have different approaches. Either you can customize your car completely or simplify it. I don't know what I would choose, but for me, when I look at this, it looks simple, it looks approachable. Also, the battery guarantee is 8 years for 160,000 kilometers. Charging wise, you can charge this to maximum 150 kilowatt, but I haven't tested it. The maximum charging speed that you can get is at Ionity in Södertälje, and that's the only fast charging place in the entire part of Stockholm. What's that about? But we'll start driving and talk more about how the driving experience is. And of course, because it is electric, it's quiet, the power delivery is smooth if you want it to be. I like that Ford has made it very simple with the digital gauge cluster. I mean, you have only speed, and regarding generation, they don't show that much either, or almost nothing, which means that they simplify the driving experience, and I really like that. You can see it's, the speed limit is 70 kilometers an hour. I have set it to 69, and when I drove to the filming location, there have been problems with the speed jumping. It set different speeds without me doing anything, and I know that's because of a pre-production issue, The lane keeping assist is trying more to, let's say, nudge you into the lines, so it isn't as strong on the steering as other systems. So let's see if I go out. It helps you. Yeah, so right now it's starting to drift to the right, even though I had quite solid lines. There's the possibility to change 3 driving modes. I'm now in Whisper, and there's Active and Untamed. And you can see that I have propulsion sound. So in Active, let's hear how it sounds. Sounds good, sounds bad, nothing special. Untamed, it is the same sound as in Active, but just louder. And when you're in Untamed, the car brakes even though you have deactivated one pedal driving. For me, I'm in Active for the most amount of time. And this car has 351 horsepower. The car weighs about 2 tons. See, there's a dog. And because it is a quiet car, I won't bother anyone, which is nice. You still get maximum power, but it's just applied quicker in Untamed, so, and the steering is a bit heavier. And speaking of the steering, it feels quite unresponsive. It feels quite dead. We go into Untamed. And for me, when I drive in Untamed, I will remove the propulsion sound. Let's see here. This is the right amount of horsepower for just a tad bit quicker crossover. The price, as I said, this car costs from 73,000 euros. The base price is 57,000 euros. And 57,000 euros for all of this, I see this car as a direct threat to a lot of electric crossovers right now. However, this car does not have a heat pump, which means that if it's cold, like it becomes in Sweden, and you need to charge, there's no way of preheating the battery, so you can get the maximum amount of charging speed, and that's a bummer. This is a really nice car. It's different, but still similar enough to other cars and doing stuff well enough. There is a viable option in the electric crossover segment with the friction tires and the steering. It feels quite bumpy. It's quite heavily sprung. Doesn't lean that much, and I mean, it's comfortable. It's not stiff, but it feels bumpy or jumpy. So my final conclusion for the Ford Mustang Mach-E, well, it's not a Mustang in a classic sense, but what Ford is trying to do with the Mustang Mach-E is trying to reach a completely new segment that don't care that a Mustang is a V8, and that's a broader segment. Well, they might lose that part of heritage that the Mustang name had before, but what they're doing in terms of sales, in terms of broadening the reach to new people, is just clever branding. The car itself, great. It just works great. There have been quite a lot of pre-production issues. The range is quite low compared to my battery charge. This is claimed to have 540 kilometers of range, and I only use 17 kilowatt hours, which is very low, and some of the bodywork doesn't really line up that good. And that's my final review for the Ford Mustang Mach-E. See you next time.